Buenas, bienvenidos a este vídeo de unplandivino.net, por así decirlo. Vamos a seguir con el taller del miedo al deseo, no, perdón, el taller del deseo. Fíjate la condición del alma, ahí, el miedo que tenemos, que tiene que salir ahí.
Sí, yo lo estoy sintiendo, justo dije, yo estoy con mucho frío, sí.
Sí, vamos por el apartado este del miedo y nivel de...
Sí, eso fue lo que pasó.
Vale, pues entonces, bueno, ya hemos tenido un percance también, como solemos tener muchas veces con los comienzos, y entonces resulta que ahora acaban de hablar las personas que estaban en la anterior, ¿verdad? También, en la anterior grabación. Hemos podido por fin empezar después de unos accidentes y saludad a vuestro amado público y rápidamente seguimos. Claudia, ¿qué tal en Patagonia?
Gracias, Iván. Acá experimentando ya con la piel de gallina y ni empezamos. Así que súper conectada. Gracias.
Y Ana, ¿qué tal?
Bueno, de verdad que me siento entre triste y con ganas de llorar.
Ah, pues eso es muy importante.
Ay, qué bueno, Ana. Ajá. Sí,
O sea,
Sí,
si quieres aprovecharlo y si sabes colgar, porque de repente tu aplicación te está haciendo cosas raras.
no, estoy bien. Yo voy a seguir, Iván.
Sí, pero que es importante cuando a veces, que yo no lo hago también lo suficiente, cuando tenemos ganas, respirar y seguir preguntando, deseando seguir sintiendo lo que estamos sintiendo para ahondarlo, porque como tenemos que, cuando tengamos miedo hay que querer ser humildes y sentirlo más y mejor para que se vaya, igual con la tristeza, para saber lo que son, porque muchas veces está todo ahí, son medio heridas de los desencarnados que están con nosotros, medio fachada, medio no sé qué, o sea, son ahí que tenemos que ir averiguando, pero bueno, no sé, eso que en cualquier momento que necesitéis, ya sabemos, aunque claro, no podemos salirnos todos porque entonces se acaba la llamada, así que Claudia, no puedes... Tú te quedas,
Bueno,
Iván.
nos turnamos. Bien.
y se acaba la grabación, claro. Entonces, lo que estábamos viendo de ayer, fijaos, aquí tenemos el PDF que estuvimos viendo el tema del crear una enfermedad, que lo pueden hacer la presencia de los desencarnados, esto de atraer según nuestras heridas, según nuestros deseos también, que le estaba comentando antes a Claudia de cómo cómo enlaza todo lo que hemos visto últimamente. Bueno, el vídeo este que hicimos con Claudia de rezar por los demás, que nos comentaba ahí rápidamente, que son 5 minutos nada más, aunque el vídeo dura mucho, pero es una visualización muy breve de unos comentarios que hacen Jesús y María sobre ese tema, de cómo pensar bien, entre comillas, o sea, rezar por los demás es un ejercicio del deseo que hace que los desencarnados, llamemos positivos, tengan la labor más fácil y Dios tenga la labor más fácil también. Y eso nunca está de más recordarlo y estuvimos ahí iniciando un poco el deseo sobre ese tema, ¿no? Ahí en ese vídeo. Y fijaros como ayer veíamos en el taller el caso de esta mujer que un poco titubeante y también con mucha fachada hablaba de que había contribuido a crear en su marido, ya muerto, la enfermedad, el proceso, con la responsabilidad de los dos, claro. Entonces eso, solo quería comentar eso muy rápidamente. Si queréis añadirle algo que os haya venido ahora, pues muy bien, y ya empezamos.
No, Iván, creo que, no sé si en este relato mínimo que contaste de las señoras, si veíamos la influencia de los desencarnados negativamente, digamos, como para ver cómo el deseo intencionado desde el amor también opera, es decir, lógicamente con el mismo mecanismo, pero desde el amor, claro. Y
Sí.
en cambio, en este caso intervenían ya desde las emociones no sanadas, ¿no? Desde el error, que ahí es donde ellos se meten.
Sí, sí, no, y que está muy mal visto eso de rezar por los demás, parece de la vieja Iglesia católica, parece cosa de viejos católicos, pero es súper bonito lo que nos contaban ahí.
Sí, sí, yo además lo experimenté hoy con mi hija, que me hizo un comentario que sentí que despertó un poco de molestia en mí, mi arrogancia, a causa de que mi nieta estaba enferma, entonces yo trataba de que ella haga el viraje a ver cómo el niño refleja sus emociones, y ella, no, que tengo que buscar una dermatóloga, y estaba de vacaciones, como que seguían su postura libre albedrío, claro. Y sin embargo, en un momento cuando pude verme a mí también, asumir la responsabilidad de la emoción que estaba sintiendo, sí, empecé a rezar con ella, y de otra manera mucho más humilde y además conmovedora en este sentido de poder empatizar desde otro lugar, de comprender más que de juzgar, y llegar a otro lugar que lo aprendí un poco aprendiendo a ver a Jesús con las canalizaciones, como siempre pidiéndole permiso a la otra persona va avanzando, y el diálogo, ya sea con un espíritu o con una persona en forma física, es el mismo, ¿no?
Sí.
Y realmente sí. Y desde ese lugar siento que tuvimos ayuda también mi hija y yo, porque terminó recordando, relacionando algo que le estaba pasando, y pudo llorar, y bueno, le dije, ahí está la puerta de entrada, ya estás
O
ahí
sea,
parada.
tú en cuanto te saliste un poquito de las expectativas, todo lo que pudiste, viste el fruto, ¿no?
Exactamente, y ahí, pero fue ese momento. En principio, como venimos diciendo todo el tiempo, que dijimos ayer un poco, creo, asumir la emoción que estoy sintiendo en ese momento, que es la correcta. Entonces yo sentía incomodidad y entré ahí, digamos. Entonces, ¿qué es lo que me está molestando? Que, como dice Jesús, no hay un lugar donde tenga que estar tu alma, que en ese momento es muy poderoso. Entré ahí, dije, ¿de qué tengo miedo? O sea, mucho más ya fluido, ¿no? Esto me molesta, tenía que ver con una herida mía, yo siempre ejercí el control, bien, como que, y ahí me pude ver, y en ese momento girar la situación emocionalmente, a verme a mí, ¿no? A perdonarme a mí, a comprenderme a mí, a sentir ese miedo que uno tiene, a no ser la fachada, paradójicamente.
Sí. Bueno, perdonarse uno mismo tiene muchos peligros, muchas puntas, pero no vamos a seguir,
Dale.
si queréis, a no ser que Ana quiera completar con algo o preguntar algo sobre lo que acabamos de...
Ayer, cuando esa señora hizo ese comentario, fue interesante cuando Jesús le dice que también, de parte de él, aunque aparentemente ella hizo un descuido, pero él también deseaba tener esa enfermedad, o sea, tenía algo ahí de responsabilidad, como siempre.
Sí.
Que no solo fue un descuido de ella, de que él no lo hubiesen visto los médicos, para así prevenir de alguna manera ese cáncer de lo que murió.
Uh-huh.
Eso fue lo que...
Igual no sería un descuido.
¿Cómo?
¿Perdón?
Igual no sería un descuido. O sea, como algo librado un poco al azar, no. El término descuido,
Aparentemente, pues.
claro, no hay nada azaroso. Por lo que pase, tiene su lógica, digamos.
Su razón de ser, sí, pero que a eso pues se refería, que ella decía que lo dejó así, como, bueno,
Claro, es
si
aparente,
viene
sí,
otra vez,
sí.
pero él por su parte también contribuyó, también tuvo ese deseo de que eso se quedara así, sin tomar cartas en el asunto en el momento, el interés.
Claro, sí. Sí, entiendo.
Ujú.
Bueno, pues vamos a darle. Ya si hay algún problema me decís, y si todo va bien, pues ya no me decís nada. Y os silenciáis si podéis.
Ok.
Y cuando queráis, porque pasa algo, que vamos muy rápido o muy lento, también, pues me comentáis. Y ya vemos. Tú me dices, Ana, si no encuentras el botón porque te ha cambiado la aplicación o lo que sea, pues yo te silencio también o lo que sea.
Gracias, Iván, pero
Ah, no,
está
eso sí.
perfecto.
Vale.
Gracias.
Muy bien. Hasta ahora, entonces.
Now, let's get back to the desire, though. What I truly desire, I create. Now, what we want to do is focus now for a moment on what inhibits desire. Right? Because if what I desire, I truly create, and I want to create all these lovely things, there must be some things that also inhibit my having a desire that can create those things. You know what will happen in the future? When we've often talked about the spheres, right? Progression spheres and so forth, right up to the 22nd sphere, right?
Bueno, y esto hay que hacer la observación sí o sí, que la hago también en el PDF, claro, de que ahora en el 2000, a partir de, no sé si el 2016 o antes, en el 2016 ya habla de la esfera 36. Es como si él al ir absorbiendo más verdad emocional, se va corrigiendo algunos datos que lo que importa en realidad no son los datos técnicos, sino que, bueno, hay muchísimas esferas celestiales antes de llegar a la de la reunión álmica, pero que en realidad es la 36ª. O sea, hay muchísimas más fronteras interestelares en el universo que no vemos, de la materia oscura, digamos, del espiritual, hasta llegar a lo de la reunión álmica, que sería la 36. Así que cuidado aquí. Y bueno, eso lo podemos hablar después, si queremos, por si acaso hay algún problema o lo que sea. Pero...
What I've called this 22nd sphere. So there's the first sphere, second sphere, third sphere, fourth sphere, and so forth, right up to 22nd sphere. Now, remember what I desire, I create in a negative or positive way. So what this applies, whether my desires are harmonious with divine truth and love, or whether they're disharmonious with divine truth and love. If they're disharmonious, it's going to create the pain. If my desires are harmonious, it's going to create the joy, right? So I know through the feedback system that if I'm in a place of pain, and this applies to all the spirit friends that are listening to us at the moment, because there's quite a few who are very interested in this discussion. If I'm creating pain, and I still have some pain in my life, it's because of my desires that are disharmonious with love. And if I create, and I'm feeling some blissful emotions, it's because of my desires that are harmonious with love. So, if you think about it, what's happening here in your growth? What's happening is you are growing as a soul. So down here you could say you're a midget soul, right? Not any derogatory remarks to a person who's small, but rather just that you're tiny, right? You're tiny soul. As you grow, you are learning a lot of things. And I remember I said up here, your soul is like a giant nurse soul, right? Like a giant. Now, one of the things that is growing in this space is you're receiving divine love, right? That's the way you do this. And so therefore, as you're growing, what happens is your soul is expanding with love. Right? But that's not the only thing your soul is expanding in. Your soul is also expanding in its expression of free will. In other words, when you're in this state, you're able to express your free will in a much more instantaneous manner than when you're in this state. Now, not only that, your soul is growing in desire. So when you begin here, you've got, where's my desire? I don't know. I haven't got any desires, right? You're in that space, right? And then when you get up to here, you know every passionate desire you have. And you're fulfilling every one of them. And ironically, some of you are going to have passionate desires to create a planet. Not on the Earth, but in a different dimension. And you'll create them just from a desire. Some of you will actually have a desire to create a living animal that's not ever been created before. And you will actually create it through your desire. We have no idea how powerful desire is on this earth. The reason why we have no idea is because of another problem that we face here on the earth. And that problem is this problem of fear. Now, remember I've given a talk, I think I said fear is your, fear is your friend. Fear is your friend because what you fear, you cannot desire. So if you can list all your fears, it's actually going to help you expose your desires. Once you own and acknowledge your fears, you will start seeing what your true desires are. Fear is one of the most powerful influences on your desire, and in particular upon you acting on your desire. Even if you recognize them, but a lot of times we don't even feel we have a desire while the fear exists. Now, Mary's already told you in previous discussions that when we first met, she basically felt, well, for a little period of time there was a desire, wasn't there? And then when all of the feelings come in about the big picture stuff, remembering some things about our first century life, and then feeling like, you know, maybe she is Mary Magdalene, and all these kind of things come up for her emotionally. She just went straight into fear. And in that place, what happened to desire? There was none. None. And I remember we went out to dinner one night when we were in our separated phase. And Mary told me how little desire she had for me. And I could feel that there's just all this fear speaking. Heaps and heaps of fear. So the truth is that you are not going to be able to recognize many of your own desires while you retain many of your fears. Does that make sense? And so fear is very, very important to you in this equation of desire. Because if you can release some of these fears and terrors you have, you will finish up exposing your desires. And then you will also need to release the fears about acting on your desires. And then you will realize the power of creation. Because that's how creation is made, by actually creating from your desires. We can go to yourself first, and then go back to you. Keep your hand up.
AJ, I was just going back to the creating money in your life.
Yep.
And I was just wondering about my own fears of money being evil. And it took me back to, I fear really being like my parents. They fought all the time about money.
Yep.
And if I fear to be like my parents, then I can't desire. That means that's why I can't desire money.
Mm-hmm. So let's put up our hands. How many of you don't want to be like your parents? That's almost everyone, actually. How many? I should ask, how many of you do want to be like your parents? There's a couple. There's a couple. Why is everybody laughing?
Este es Tristán, claro.
You see what's happening a lot. These are very big emotional injuries that we face. The big emotional injuries are related to our parents. So a lot of times, like if my parent had a certain mannerism or a certain characteristic that I hate, in terms of, and judge, and therefore I won't want it in myself, and therefore if it is in there anyway, I'll squash it to pieces rather than recognise that it's present. The problem is most of the time it is present because I was influenced emotionally by them in my development. A lot of times it is actually present in some way. And this is the problem we face, is that we're so judgmental of the people who brought us into the world that in the end we finish up judging every unhealed emotion.
Aquí dice que eso a lo mejor se lo han comido en la transcripción y luego no lo añadí al repasarlo con el vídeo. Dice, las personas que nos han traído al mundo, somos tan...
of the people who brought us into the way. And this is the problem we face, is that we're so judgmental.
Y la palabra que usa, yo lo hubiera traducido más literal, que es, somos tan juzgadores, es judgmental o como se diga, porque eso, muchas veces eso, como lo hacemos los PDFs, que en este caso además lo pasaste tú por el automático, por el DeepL, Claudia, y yo también ya siempre los paso primero ahí y luego ya a este también, pues al hacer la revisión, pues no, sí, o sea, es bastante, o sea, hay que revisar despacio y no sé qué, pero si lo tradujéramos así en plan mucho más eso, o sea, con mucho más, bueno, pues ahí habría cambios de estilo a veces como eso, ¿no? Para sostener...
Con mucho más fidelidad, ¿querés decir?
No,
fidelidad en cuanto a la expresión.
No, porque son traducciones válidas también, pero que fidelidad a como lo solía yo hacer cuando no había estas traducciones automáticas. Yo, por ejemplo, traduje La vía del corazón o cosas así y pues yo qué sé, que uno se va haciendo un método y aunque a veces no es el más apropiado porque no son, pues eso, no somos traductores profesionales, pero te vas haciendo, por preservarlo, un método a lo largo del tiempo para que todo sea homogéneo y eso, bueno, pues sería bueno rehacerlo todo lo que hay en papel, lógicamente, con el mismo, siempre traduciendo por lo mismo, ¿no? Si aquí dice judgmental, o sea, que eso tiene la raíz de juzgar en inglés. Y sí, pero es que también hay muchos españoles diferentes, hay muchos idiomas español, o como lo queramos llamar, así que da igual, que cada cual luego...
Claro, pero está bien, me parece muy oportuna la aclaración porque uno mecánicamente aclara, vos lo aclarás en cada uno de los encabezados de los documentos, pero está bueno que se conozca todo lo que hay detrás incluso y las posibilidades que se ofrecen.
Sí.
Al escuchar.
Bueno, y aquí le faltaba las personas que nos han traído al mundo, que lo dice y no está. Somos tan críticos con esas personas, sí. O sea, ahí concreta, que se está refiriendo a los padres. Vale, muy bien, sigamos. Que me he enrollado demasiado.
People who brought us into the world, that in the end we finish up judging every unhealed emotion that's related to them and we suppress that, but that eventually controls the rest of our life.
So, AJ, is that meaning that to create, design my life for this incident, it is to process that emotion that is making me afraid?
Exactly.
And then therefore I can, because that's very big, because there's a lot of things involved with my parents.
Of course.
And so that means I'm not going to have money for a long, long time.
No, 200 years, you're never going to have money. Trust me. What do you want me to say? No, what it means is that you'll find that you'll release one emotion and then there'll be a bit of improvement. You release another emotion, there'll be some more improvement. You release another emotion, there'll be more improvement. And so forth. That's how it happens, obviously. And the more you're willing to connect to and release, the more improvement there will be and the more rapid it will be. So it depends on your desire as to whether it takes you 200 years, and by then you won't want money anyway because you'll be up there, right? Or whether it's going to take you 10 months or 1 month. It really just does depend upon your desire. So the key is to focus on that and allow yourself to see the result. This is where, see, many of us are feeling quite negative about our emotional processing work, right? But our emotional processing work is very exciting. It's so exciting because what we're doing is we're releasing these things we're afraid of, which now allow us to have a desire. And now our creation is going to be totally different, right? And so it's very exciting. Every emotion you release, like, I feel like, wow, they're going to really notice that. We were talking the other day about somebody, I can't remember who it was, and we were saying, yeah, they're going to meet a soulmate next week or so. And the next discussion that we had with them, they told us they knew who their soulmate was, you know, like, because, oh, that was you, Nina, wasn't it? Yep. Okay, so what happened was, like, we could feel in Nina the emotions that were being released regarding this blockage towards her soulmate. Right? And we could feel them slowly dropping off, and different one dropping off, a different one dropping off. And eventually myself and Mary, it was a few weeks before Nina came to talk to us. And we said, oh, she'll meet her soulmate pretty shortly. Right? And lo and behold, he comes up. You haven't met him, but you know. You know exactly who it is. And you did meet him, didn't you? Years ago. And so you know who it is. But the issue is that we can feel that because of the emotions that have been dropped off, right? Now that's exciting, isn't it? You see, most of us, we're looking at our emotions and we're going, oh, that's a terrible man, oh, I don't know what to do with, oh, I'm stupid, I'm useless, I'm worthless, I'm and reality, what we can be saying to ourselves is, wow, this is so exciting journey because I now have the power to control my creations. And I know how to do that. Before I didn't know how to do that. Now I know how to do that. That's amazing, isn't it? How many times in the past have you been totally frustrated that you get this and you try as hard as you can and what doesn't work out? How many times have you been frustrated with disappointment about something not working for you? Like, goodness me, it's like my whole life is littered with that. But as soon as you start focusing on the fact that you know what to do, and that is, you know that you need to have a desire to create. So this desire causes all my creation, and I know that my fear is the thing that prevents my desire. I know that if I focus on my fears, here's my friend, it can tell me exactly what's blocking me up. And, you know, some of you, you've looked at your soulmate many times and you've never even seen them. You've never even recognized them. You don't even know that they are who they are yet, right? And that's because of your fears. Your fears that need to be released. And one day you'll be walking along and you've released quite a lot of these fears about the opposite gender and about control and manipulation by the opposite gender and all these other things about childhood and sexual stuff or whatever, and you've been working your way through these things, and you just look at this person and you go, that's my soul egg. Like, wow. Like, that's an amazing time to actually come to that place. Right? And then there's also other things where you're walking along in your life and you realise, wow, I haven't thought about money now for months. I haven't even thought about it. Like, I don't even think about it when I go shopping anymore. But you know what it's like. I've been shopping with people like this. You know, I'm riding my trolley.
Con gente como las que va a describir ahora, no con como la anterior.
Around, right? People like this. You know, I'm riding my trolley around, right? And I can feel they want that particular thing. That one there on the aisle there. But I'm not putting it in the trolley. And I'm going, what's going on here with this person, right? And I can feel in them this thing of, oh, it's too much. I shouldn't do that. Maybe AJ won't like it in his trolley. All these hundreds of different things going on, right? Inside of them emotionally that causes them to do that. When myself and Mary went shopping initially, which was, I think, for the first time we were in the UK, wasn't it? Like, it was quite funny, really, because Mary was, I could feel a lot of these desires Mary had to put this particular chocolate in, but no, I don't know if I can do that, and all those kind of things happening. And it's because of our fears that these things happen, right? The more I release, I can go along and I just bing, 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 right, next aisle, right, and so forth. And that's what shopping is. But how many of you have a joyful shopping, food shopping experience? Like, you know, it's like, oh, could I get that? Do I get that? Do I? Oh, that one's 3 cents more than that one. No, but I like this one, but that one's 3 cents more. No, please do get it. Put that one back. Put this one in the trolley, right? And that's what we do because of we don't let ourselves have our desires, right? Because of fears that we have. Right? Like if I said to you tomorrow, get all the money you have in your bank, whatever that be, whether it's 10 cents, 50 cents, dollar, whatever, or $100 or $1,000 worth, get all your money in your bank, put it in your pocket, right? And then sit down and write a list of what you would like to do with it. And then go and do it. Right? Now, trust me, that's going to bring out lots of fears, isn't it? Like, oh, but where's my next dollar come from? It's one of the first fears, isn't it? Like, that's what happens. And you see, what the problem is that every time we are so focused on fear, we shut down our desires. Right? Now, what I try to do instead of doing that is I allow myself to have my desire, and when I've got no money, I then have a big bawl about why I have no money and why I created that. You know what I mean? Like I let myself feel the emotion that created that. Right? And as long as my desires are harmonious with love and truth, we're going to be fine. That's what's going to happen. Everything will be fine as long as my desires are harmonious with love and truth. And if they aren't, I'll feel the pain of it, and then I'll be able to identify the emotion, and that will be good too, won't it? Because this emotion is preventing me from being at one with God. In the end. So I need to deal with this emotion anyway. Otherwise, I'm not going to ever be at one with God, which is what I really, really, really desire. But AJ said, what I desire I create. So if I really desired being at one with God, then I'd already be at one with God. And that's true too. Right? So can you see I must have a whole list of reasons why I don't really desire to be at one with God? That also I would need to allow myself to feel about and be honest about. Okay. Oh, sorry. Did I do any of your questions? I didn't.
I was just going to say that you've lived all your life with these fears. How do you recognise them?
In other words, all these fears are now real to you. Of course.
Well, yeah, 45 years, and that's your life, basically.
Yep.
So I don't even know what my fears are, let alone my desires sometimes.
With fear, by the way, please don't tell yourself that you don't know what they are, because that's a lie. You know exactly what they are, but you don't want to know. You see, the trouble with our fears is we don't want to know what they are. That's why you're not being able to list them. Like when I started this process, if somebody said list your fears, I would have written down 2 or 3 things. Many of you have asked you to write down your fears, and I went up to one lady in one of the workshops up when we were up at Maloney, and she had 4 things written. And I'm feeling her fears and feeling like she could have written 30 pages and still not ended it. Right? The reason why is because most of us don't even want to have an intellectual awareness of what our fears really are. Now, with anything that happens like that, the first thing we need to do is pray. So the first thing we need to do is pray, please, God, give me the ability to see my fears. Because I want to start seeing my fears, not just ignoring them anymore and denying them anymore and making out they're not there anymore and all those things. What I want to do instead is see them for what they are. And as soon as you start having a true desire towards God to create a list of your fears, guess what you'll have? A list of your fears. Until that point, you won't have a list of your fears. So someone else can come up and tell you, oh, I think you're afraid of this, I think you're afraid of that, I think you're afraid of this, and I think you're afraid of that. And some of that might resonate, some of them might not. But at the end of the day, unless you really want to know what you're afraid of, you won't want to do anything about it anyway. Does that make sense to you? So my suggestion is, if you have no idea what you're afraid of, start asking God to tell you what you're afraid of. And develop a desire to know what you're afraid of. Because remember, what I desire, I create. If I don't know what I'm afraid of, that's because I don't want to know what I'm afraid of. The same principle applies. What I desire, I create. So if what I created is that I have no idea what fears I have, I want to have no idea of what fears I have. And that's the thing I need to change if I want to grow. Does that make sense? Yeah. So this is the beauty of honesty with yourself. Is that often we tell ourselves all these hidden messages like that are totally untrue. We say, I do want to progress towards God, but no progress is happening. So I look at that and I say, no progress is happening. I need to be honest with myself. I've had periods of time in my own progression where no progress happened. None, for months, like 3 or 4 months, none. What did I want? I desired no progress, because that's what I created. Why would I desire no progress? Because I'm afraid of something. Do I desire to even know what I'm afraid of? No, because I don't want to know what I'm afraid of. But it must be pretty big, right? So I'm probably terrified rather than afraid. So then I have to go into my terror. All right, I need to go into my terror. What am I terrified of? I'm terrified that I might die, or I'm terrified that this might happen. I'm terrified that I might be jailed. I'm terrified that I'll lose my girl. I'm terrified, whatever I'm terrified about. Then I start getting honest with myself about my feelings, and now I can see my blocks to desire. Now I can start progressing again. You see, what we get is what we wanted. Here, not here, here. So we need to be honest about that truth And if we're honest enough about